Dark City is a 1998 release neo-noir mystery science fiction thriller directed by Alex Proyas.
Yeah, it stars Rufus Sewell as John Murdoch. He wakes up in a bath in a hotel room, and doesn't know who he is, where he is, what's going on, and so he stumbles around and he discovers a body on the floor of a murdered woman who's been killed in a sort of ritualistic style with spirals carved into her. So he stumbles around, obviously shocked by this. He finds some clothes. There's a suitcase, which he assumes is his. So he takes that. And then there's a phone call from somebody claiming to be a doctor who tells him, no, get out right now. There's people coming to get you. And lo and behold, there are. So he runs down and manages to evade them. Then he gets down to reception and the guy, he finds out his name and how long he's been there, according to this guy anyway. And he starts to find out more about himself, that he's married. And then he's basically accused of other murders as well, a string of sort of serial killer style string of murders, and all the while he's pursued by these strangers. So yeah, it kind of starts like a noir, but then, like I say, it's sci-fi as well. So there's science fiction elements coming in with these strangers having these sort of supernatural powers of being psychokinesis, where they can change the surroundings. Yeah, there's lots of other stuff going on, like with memories and things like that. I don't want to go too deep into it because there's lots of stuff in it that it's good to have it revealed as the film goes on rather than knowing about all this in advance. But yeah, he meets up with this doctor who's played by Kiefer Sutherland, and he tells us a bit more, and obviously his wife, who doesn't know whether he's done these murders or not. And there's also a cop who's obviously looking into these murders and wants to talk to him. And that's he's played by William Hurt.
And the wife is Jennifer Connelly.
Did I not say that?
No.
Sorry about that, Jennifer. Yes, and there's a few other actors in there. You've got Melissa George in a small role. I think it was her first feature film role. Obviously, at that time was famous for Home and Away.
Oh yeah, I thought it was Neighbours. Right.
No. Don't know your Aussie soaps.
Obviously not.
But she's obviously been in a lot more film roles since then. Who else is in there? We've got Ian Richardson, quite a famous British actor.
Yeah,
and lots of other people.
Bruce Spence.
Yeah,
Spence. Sorry, from Mad Max.
Yeah, from Mad Max. Yeah. I mean, it's you hadn't seen it before, had you?
No, I hadn't actually. No, it's a nice way of getting me into it then.
Thanks.
No, I hadn't seen it, and it's an interesting one because it's kind of on my. So, as with a lot of film fans, you have a list of films you want to see. This was on that list. And as with ever, life gets in the way or other films get in the way. Yep. And the film gets further and further down the list. But the nice thing about having this channel is that we can actually watch those films. And I was able to watch it. And I'd always wanted to watch this film because, it's Alex Proyas, who obviously has not... I mean, The Crow was his first film, his debut feature, and that's an amazing film from the 90s that I was a big fan of. He's not gone on to have the best career after this.
No.
A few stinkers in his list of cinematic treats. But mainly the cast. I really like everyone in the cast. I mean, Kiefer Sutherland, big fan of Kiefer Sutherland.
I love his performance in this. It's just it's a sort of traditional Kiefer, particularly it's sort of 90s. It's not what he would have normally done in the 90s.
I was going to say that I'll come on to that in a minute. But then also William Hurt. I'm a big fan of William Hurt. I really love his work. Jennifer Connelly is always great. And of course we didn't mention Richard O'Brien.
Oh,
of course, he's in there too. Did you just swear?
Might done.
Of course,
Rocky Horror,
Picture Show, and Crystal Maze.
Yeah.
Great show if you were British and around in the 90s. So he's great in there too. So it's got a really good cast. I did like it actually. I have to say, I found the pacing quite slow, and it dragged quite a lot for me. But I did enjoy it. I thought So I probably go into the reasons why I wasn't so keen on it, and I think it's because it's clearly influenced by loads of different things, and you can kind of see lots of other films in there. I mean, specifically, I think The Matrix came out after this.
It did, yeah. Apparently it filmed on some of the same sets that Dark City used.
Oh, okay.
That's why some of it looks a little bit
The Matrix was filmed in Australia, and this is filmed in Australia as
Yeah.
well. And so it definitely kind of, and obviously if you watch it now, after both of these films, so it did feel very Matrixy. A lot of it felt like Brazil, I felt was a big influence. Blade Runner to a point. The Crow itself, obviously, being the same director. And, I mean, a lot of those kind of neo-noir type films, it seemed to be a bit of a throwback to the German expressionistic films of the 1930s.
Going all the way back to like Metropolis.
Metropolis is definitely going on in there. And these aren't bad, these are all great films. I just felt maybe there was too much of those influences kind of thrown in there. But, on the flip side, it's really good, nice to look at. There's some really wonderful moments. It's quite surreal at times. There seems to be a heavy use of the American artist Edward Hopper. So his famous painting Nighthawks, which is the one in the restaurant, and the same kind of the colours, there's kind of strange greens and reds that Edward Hopper used a lot in his paintings are definitely in this film. So I think he's a definite influence on the look of this film. So for that side, I think visually this film was amazing, and there's some really great shots and some really great set pieces going on. And I was going to say, so I thought this was almost one of Kiefer Sutherland's best roles. I thought he was able to hold his own in this. And I mean, I think the trouble with someone like Kiefer Sutherland is obviously he gets compared to his father. I mean, he is no Donald Sutherland, and Kiefer Sutherland, no offence to him personally, he's not his father. But I thought he was really good. I really liked him. He has this kind of weird breathing thing, which kind of ended, which vanished at the end of the film. He seems to start talking properly again. But I think he seems to be having a lot of fun in this. And I think actually the fact that William Hurt, Kiefer Sutherland, Jennifer Connelly, Ian Richardson, I think without that cast, this film possibly wouldn't have been as good. Because, like I said, I personally found the pacing a little bit slow and draggy at times. But I did enjoy it. I mean, I wouldn't say there's anything particularly original or new story-wise. It's kind of, it's treading it's treading the plot that's kind of the great cinematic plot of memory. Memory and film. Obviously, Blade Runner features memory heavily. It's very much part of its plot. There are great memory films out there that seem to work really well with cinema or memory loss. Obviously, things like Memento are another one that deals with memory. I think that's a really interesting subject because obviously it's something we all have, and that fear of losing your memory. Obviously, we are in a world where you can lose it. We do have illnesses that you can lose memory. So it's a terrifying thought to actually lose one's memory. And I think films that deal in that always work. A little bit, not memory loss, but Strange Days that we did a few weeks ago. Another similar thing going on, a bit neo-noirish as well. So I think
that's all set at night, and there's never any daytime again.
No, in fact, that's actually mentioned in this film as part of its plot point. I think visually this film is really, really nice to look at. There's some really interesting stuff in there. I think the acting is all solid. It's, like I said, it's got a great cast. I just personally, for me, I felt it dragged at times.
I can see where you're coming from. I saw it when it was first released, like 20 odd years ago, but I don't remember at the time feeling like it dragged, and I didn't, when I watched it the other day, I actually watched the director's cut, which is a few minutes longer, and it didn't feel slow to me, but I think what I would say is that the effects haven't aged particularly well.
No.
But obviously it's not a huge budget film, compared to a lot of.
But that can sometimes be quite if it's got kind of older effects, that can sometimes make them look quite surreal and strange nowadays. Nothing, it doesn't all need to look like. Well, even the Matrix is now 20 years ago, but I haven't seen that for years. I don't know if those effects hold up or not.
I think,
but obviously, compared to today, effects are much grander and bigger. Sometimes films that don't have the best budgets for. Well, they said a big budget though, didn't they? Like, was it 27 million?
Something like that.
Nothing compared to today.
Not really, no. I would say The Matrix has held up better than the sequels because the sequels relied far more on CGI, which has not aged well. Whereas the original, it was much more practical stuff, and it still holds up. I would say it's considering the subject matter, it does take itself quite seriously, but I don't think it's not in a bad way. It's even though really it is a little bit of a silly story, but it's the cast sell it, and the cinematography and the music, and it all comes together, and you buy into this strange.
I certainly felt like I was, I definitely bought into the world they were in. I certainly did not hate the film.
No,
and I think it's got some really interesting stuff in there, and I think it's quite unknown. It's quite unknown.
We probably The Crow just turned 25, I think, last week or something. So we probably should have done that, but. Everyone knows The Crow, so I think this is a little bit more unknown than that. And obviously, he went after this. He did iRobot, which was a massive, big budget Will Smith film.
That's a good one, isn't it? Yeah.
So I think of all his films, I think this is probably the least known. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
A bit of a cult classic, I would say. And I quite like Rufus Sewell. As a hero, he's got a bit typecast as villains. He's the sort of stereotypical British bad guy, which and he's always a great watch, and he does it well. But I think it was nice to go back and see him in a more sort of heroic role.
Yeah.
Even though obviously he's kind of playing this maybe serial killer.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not. There's no real. There's a couple of maybe slightly funny moments in the film, but it's not, it's all pretty serious, and his character certainly never has a laugh, I don't think. So,
no, exactly.
So,
and I should also mention the Australian actor Colin Friel's in there. He's like, no one will probably know him, but he did loads of really great Australian films in the kind of in the 80s. One called Malcolm, which is a really strange little Australian film. Really, as an actor, I was like, oh wow, didn't realise he was in it as well. So, but I think it's got a really great cast. I would definitely recommend it to people who maybe, especially if you like things like The Matrix and Brazil and Blade Runner and all those kind of strange worlds, take you out of reality for an hour or so.
And the ending, I mean, the whole film is kind of a mystery. Because it's obviously not. Well, you quickly find out that there's obviously strange things going on, and these strangers have these powers that they can alter reality and change things, and they change the landscape of the city and things like that. But the reveal at the end as to what is sort of going on is, I don't know. I can't say anything without spoiling it, but I really liked that.
Sure.
And I don't remember, the first time I saw it, I don't remember seeing it coming. I mean, did you see?
Not really. No.
So obviously, it's there's something weird, but it's it's not really revealed, obviously, until the end what exactly is going on.
You have this on DVD or Blu-ray?
I had the Blu-ray. I picked up the DVD. I picked up the Blu-ray. Yeah, I picked up the Blu-ray recently in a local second-hand emporium, and it was quite expensive actually. I think it's out of print, so it was like £12. I know, for second-hand. So, but this has been released in several countries. It's out in the US and Germany and places like that, so it's not hard to find. And it's got plenty of features on it, but it does have the director's cut, and the theatrical cut has a voiceover at the start by Kiefer Sutherland, which kind of it doesn't really spoil it, but it gives you some information about these strangers that I think apparently the studio thought people weren't going to understand what was going on without it, so it was put on. But Alex Proyas didn't really want it on there, so when the director's cut came out, he removed it. I think maybe he moved it somewhere else in the film. I can't remember whether I heard it or not when I watched it, but there's a few more minutes, just some scene extensions and some other bits involved. Nothing particularly major. I mean, I hadn't watched it for a few years, so there was nothing that leapt out, apart from the lack of voiceover at the start. There was nothing that leapt out at me as being brand new. So, there is a few different. I think it's all between 10 and 15 minutes difference, so not wildly different. But it's lots of features on it and stuff like that. I mean, I think it could probably do with a nice Arrow bells and whistles edition, but a nice restoration. I think that the pictures, it looks all right, but it's got a bit of digital smoothing on it, so everything looks a bit too nice for a film of this age. It should be a little bit grainy, but you can see they've just taken all that away. So, if you're a real picture fanatic, it's you might not like that, but it's it's perfectly watchable and obviously better than the DVD. So, it's. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere. Could be. I think it's on Amazon, but I think you can only rent it. I think.
So that was Dark City, and as always, if you enjoyed the video, let us know in the comments below.
Yep, hit that subscribe button up there if you've enjoyed what you've watched, and don't forget to hit the bell for notifications. There's some other videos to watch over there, and come and find us on Twitter and Facebook, and come back next week for another one.